Chair, there are three direct answers to this application.
Uthi kwimpendulo zikaMhlekazi uMpofu unempendulo ezintathu nje qha.
And they are brief.
Simfusha nje.
The first, Chair, is that this is again an anticipatory objection.
Uthi lento athetha ngayo uMhlekazi uMpofu into eyingcingo into ayicinga ukuba iyakwenzeka.
We are not given the names of people about whose statements there should be difficulties.
I'll see how.
I mean, the only thing is that it has
Statements of any of them who are alleging that the statements obtained from them were obtained under circumstances that would render them inadmissible in law.
Well,
Abantu
to be
kuthiwa
fair, I take it if they haven't yet provided the names of the persons, they can't also provide statements from those persons whom they haven't yet named. But I take it the point you're making is that in order to deal adequately with the objection, you really need the information that I asked for, which we will be getting in due course, together with statements from those persons indicating, prima facie at least, that there is a reason to believe that an objection to the admissibility of the evidence would be upheld at the trial, and therefore the consequent prejudice to which Mr. Mpofu has referred would be suffered if the evidence were admitted here. I take it that's what you're saying. Am I right?
That is correct, Chair. That's why we call it an anticipatory objection.
uthi uMhlekazi usho
This
okokuba
objection, if it has merit, it must be raised at a point where the admissibility of a particular statement is objected to. We would know the contents of that statement. We would know exactly under which circumstances it is alleged that the statement was obtained under coercion or on one or other ground which would render that document inadmissible.
uyibeka ngolo hlobo uMhlekazi uSiminya kuma uvezwe izizathu okokuba lo muntu wanyanzelwa ngeyiphi indlela adeske athethe leyo ntetho ayiveza apho leyo nto ingenziwa xa sekuvezwa obobunqi.
But so too, the way in which one meets that type of
Is
objection.
this your second answer? You said you
I'm
were-
still on the same
So with the
point,
first one.
Isekuye leyo kuqala
and hopefully still brief.
ndizathemba nayo izaba imfisha.
Brevity is a relative concept. Of course.
So Mpofu would have made me aware, Chair. Chair, secondly, the way one deals with an objection of that nature is to obtain the specificity of the complaint in that statement, where they say, I have been coerced by Sergeant X.
Uthi kufanele kuvele apho okokuba lo muntu wanyanzelwa ngubani uSergeant X
And
uye
that
wandenza
would give us an opportunity to go and consult with that individual against whom that allegation is made.
sizofumana ithuba ke
It is
lokuba
when you
siyothetha
compare
nalo
the
muntu
two
amvezayo.
that you would see whether or not the complaint is sound or not sound, the objection is valid or is not
Uzawuba
valid.
xa nina nithelekisa ezo ntetho zaba bantu ababini nizokwazi ukubona okokuba onyanisileyo
So as a matter of principle, you cannot invite a ruling of the Commission
awukwazi ukuthi wenze isicelo esinjengaleso kwi-commission
that unidentified statements
ukuba istatement ezingavezwanga
allegedly made on a basis that renders them in law inadmissible,
ezenziwa ngendlela
which
athi
is just
angamukeleki
purely offered at the bar.
evezwa nje ngaphandle kokuba kukho ubungqina.
That is the first one, Chair.
Eyokuqala ke inqaku lami lokuqala elo Mhlekazi.
The second one, Chair, is that this objection confuses the nature of the forum this is.
Elesibini ke simisa inhloko xa okoluphando apha.
There is absolutely no jurisdiction on this commission to convict anyone.
Li-commission ayinawo amagunya
You
okokuba
do not have
ingalahla
those powers.
ifumana umuntu enetyala.
The terms of reference tell us that your function is to investigate.
Imimiselo onikezwe
It's
yona
investigative.
yokwenza uphando.
So even to use the word like self-incriminating, it's misplaced, it's a misnomer. You
Xa
cannot
sisebenzisa
incriminate yourself in a commission.
amagama afana nokuthi ukuzifaka etyaleni noma ukuzibopha akwazi ukusetshenziswa kwi-commission ngoba umuntu akanako ukuba azibophe.
But why I do know that to be accurate, Chair, is with reference to the provisions of the regulations themselves.
Ndibona nje apha kwimimiselo le ebekiwe apha imigaqo le ebekiwe apho kufundeka khona
And that's Regulation 9.2,
apha xa usiya ku-9.2
which reads as follows.
efundeka ngolu hlobo.
No evidence regarding questions and answers contemplated in sub-regulation 1, and no evidence regarding any fact or information that comes to light in consequence of any such questions or answers shall be in any criminal proceedings. Now that's where the complaint is.
Kukho nqaku elizawuvezwa apha noma into ethize ezawuvela apha ezawusetshenziswa kumatyala xa sekutyholwa abantu.
Hello?
Good morning, Alvin. As yet, Mr. X still has not testified, as you alluded to in your introduction. Technical glitches have caused a delay in the proceedings, a delay of over an hour. Now, what's happened is that once the proceedings did get underway, we found that we got a submission from Advocate Dalimpofu. Dalimpofu is representing the miners that were injured or killed in the strike. Now, in his submission, he says that some of the evidence that is in Mr. X's testimony implicates negatively at least five of the miners that he is representing. So what he's asked for in his submission is that Judge Farlam does not unduly persecute the 5 miners who released self-incriminating statements that are contained in Mr. X's testimony. Now, we're still waiting for Judge Farlam to give a response back to Advocate Dalimpofu's submission, and once that is concluded, we'll be able to start getting underway with Mr. X's testimony.
Why is Mr. X's testimony in particular so important?
Alvin, Mr. X's testimony is extremely important, particularly to the police's case, because it could corroborate their stance that they shot at the miners provoked. They did not just willy-nilly shoot at the miners. And this is important because it will paint them in a better light. So Mr. X, who himself was one of the top 12 management in the Marikana strike, one of the striking protesters, he was one of the leaders that led the striking miners up until the Kopi, who were very violent towards police, who in his testimony has explained how they decided that they were going to be extremely violent to police, provoke the police, disregard each and every single thing that the police were to say to them, so the police can attack them and they can retaliate by either shooting back at the police or cutting the police with their pangas, spears, or hitting them with their knobkiris. So this is very, very important to the police's state because it could give them the alibi that they need. As of at the moment, the general sentiment has been that the police shot these 34 miners without provocation, and they need a very credible witness who will be able to turn around and say, actually, we were the ones who provoked police into shooting at us, the miners, the striking miners. That's why this particular testimony is going to be so important. That's why there's been such heightened security around the safety of Mr. X, because you can imagine that Mr. X is testifying against his colleagues, against the people that he plotted with, the miners that he plotted with, some of whom are facing criminal charges. And these criminal charges, at the moment, they have been postponed, but they will still get underway once this particular commission has concluded and the judge has given out his recommendations. Therefore, his testimony is going to be extremely crucial for the police's case.
Now, we believe there were some accredited persons allowed to afford the Mr. X's testimony. Who are some of these accredited personnel or people?
Security around this particular Mr. X's testimony has been extremely tightened. The people who've been accredited have been specifically the media, the families of the miners who were either killed or injured at the particular Marikana strike in August 2012, and high-level dignitaries that are attending this particular event. Now, the whole accreditation process has taken at least a month, and media personnel had to give their accreditation detail. Everybody that was particularly on the short list to attend these particular proceedings had to give their accreditation details at least 2 weeks in advance to make sure that they can secure a spot at this particular proceedings and to ensure that they do not have any problems as they're entering and exiting the particular venue.
Now, exactly when is the proceeding supposed to kick off now this morning?
Once Advocate Dalimpofu is done with his submissions and and Judge Farlam has given his recommendations on whether or not the statements that Dalimpofu is hoping to get excluded will be excluded, then we'll know. So it could be anything from an hour, it could be anything from 5 minutes.
Thank you so much for your time, Nozim Tombimia, a reporter on the ground in Pretoria.
because of all the attendant mischiefs and nonsense and trouble in arriving at proof of a fact which may not contribute substantially to the issue. I think that was Mr. Mpofu's submission, if I understood him correctly. If I didn't, he will, with his usual forthrightness, tell me I'm wrong.
And that is why, Chair, we're making the argument. That is why we make the argument that that legal proposition is sound if you are confronting a forum which has the power to adjudicate rights that are in contestation, whether it's the right to innocence or whether it is a right to judgment in a civil matter. It's a different issue. But this forum does not have those powers. So that the so-called prejudice or harm to which Mr. Mpofu refers is not manifest. It's not even palpable. It's not even demonstrable. We are not even told who would suffer what harm, and be able to then make a ruling whether or not there is cogency in that type of submission. We are not there yet.
Uthi akukaveli nangoku kumhlekazi Mpofu kokuba xa kuvezwa obo bungqina ngubani lo okuzathiwa udlela indlala ngokuveza kubungqina obuthize nobuthize bungakaveli nokuvela apha.
So we are being asked to reply blind to the gravamen of the complaint because we have no details of it.
Sicela okokuba kwenziwe isinqumo singenayo intetho ephelele okokuba siyenza phezu kwantoni, sisenza phezu kwantoni eso sigqibo.
Those are our submissions, Chair.
Siphelela apho ke ngeyethu intetho mhlekazi.
I'm not sure that the complaint is blind, but I would hope that any blindness that may exist will be eliminated when Mr. Mpofu gives us the list which I referred.
Iyethemba kokuba xa umhlekazi Mpofu eveza ilist yaba bantu athetha ngabo kuzacaca ukuba yintoni kakuhle leyo ayichazayo.
In the provision of statements, affidavits by the persons concerned, indicating grounds prima facie why the statements would be inadmissible. If Mr. Mpofu does that, then we would have a basis. Then you would be able to deal with the allegations, as you say. And we would have a basis for saying this evidence is suspect, we better not receive it. But when you talk about prejudice, of course, there's a further factor which I must confess weighs with me, and I'd like to hear you on. It's not only prejudice to people, it's prejudice to the Commission, it's prejudice to the credibility of its findings. I wouldn't want the impression to be created that this Commission is prepared to function as a kind of star chamber, receiving all kind of suspect evidence extorted by torture. If that's the case, I obviously don't know that is so, but and making findings on it. That would not be conducive to achieving the purposes which the Commission was appointed, to give an objective, unbiased finding of what the facts in dispute are. The Star Chamber was rightly closed during the reign of King Charles I because of all the abuses to which it gave rise. And I never have had any ambition to preside over a revived body of that kind. And I think there are very strong, cogent reasons why that should not be the case. And if evidence is going to be put before us, which is suspect not because it's definitely proven to have been extracted by torture, but it's got the taint of, I would say, a prima facie taint of that kind of problem, alleged problem. And then the further point Mr. Mpofu raises would pick up traction, as it were, and that is the time to be spent in investigating these allegations would probably not be worth the candle, because we've got limited time here, and for the very reasons why it would operate in a court. I understand we're not a court. I understand we have no rights to determine anything, but we are required to give recommendations and findings which is believed will be of assistance not only in particular disputes between some of these people and the police or lawmen, but which will, it is hoped, will assist to give guidance generally in what amounts to a national problem, which has actually given rise to international concern. And we must do nothing which would in any way imperil the credibility of the Commission. As you will know, I've leant over backwards. Some people have criticised me for leaning over backwards too much, but I had to choose between doing things which might give rise to complaints against the Commission on the ground it wasn't being fair, as opposed to complaints on the other side that I was being too fair. But those were valid considerations. They remain valid considerations. And they are, to me, the most important factors to be considered in assessing this point that's been raised by Mr. Mpofu. But I would like to respond to you this way by asking Mr. Mpofu a question. Mr. Mpofu, you are going to give me the list of the 6 people. I take it you won't have a problem giving me affidavits from them indicating the basis upon which they allege their statements would be ruled inadmissible in a court of law, why it would be improper for even a commission of this kind, upholding principles of fairness, concerned to be seen to retain its credibility. If you set those facts out, then there will be a basis for me to exercise the discretion if necessary, and also, I suppose, a basis for the police, if they can show that the allegations are clearly without any merit at all, why that's a matter that can be looked at. I understand you to say, in the case of some at least of the people, you've actually got medical reports indicating these people were assaulted while they were in custody, which would, if that is so, would afford some kind of prima facie confirmation of their allegations. Am I correct in that?
Yes, Chairperson, we do.
So what I propose to do is not to make a ruling on the objection that you've raised until that material is available and the police have had a chance to deal with it. It does seem to me to be fair to say that it's difficult for the SAPS to deal with a generalized attack, but it's within your power, and you've indicated to me, I understand you're prepared to exercise that power. It's within your power to give them the wherewithal so these become specific points relating to statements made or allegedly made by 6 specific people, and we can then deal with it in a comprehensive and what one hopes satisfactory basis.
Chairperson, yes. Well, in principle, I have no objection to that, Chairperson. It's just unfortunate because it would be time-consuming. I would have thought that Mr. Semenya, as a colleague, would accept from the bar. When I say I've consulted with people yesterday, and they are we sent them to for a medical examination last year, and that some of the allegations have already been made on the record. But if that is not acceptable to him, then obviously I'll get the people to repeat what they said to me yesterday in the consultations.
Well, it's not only Mr. Semenya's feelings of the matter or views of the matter relevant, it's ours as well. I'm reluctant to just rule inadmissible statements just on say. So even though it comes from counsel, I understand counsel do their duty, they convey their instructions to the court or the commission, but I wanted something a bit more than that. Anyway, I would like that done. I will not give a ruling just yet. When this material is referred to has come, Mr. Semenya will then be able to deal with it if he wishes. He may well feel at that stage, so I'll give Mr. Mishlanka a chance to moment. He may feel at that stage that, in fact, what will be necessary will be quite far-ranging investigations inter alia by the Commission, which may render the whole exercise not worth the candle. But that's something for him to decide in the light of the material when it becomes available.
Xa ndikhumbula kakuhle kuyo yonke le ntetho inde ibekade ithethwa apha, umgcini sihlalo bechaza into yokubana kuye kwabakho amaxesha apho abanye bethi unikeza abanye amagunya angafanele uyagqithisa kwabanye wenza oku noku. Uthi ke akanawukwamkela into ezokwenza okokuba phaya ekugqibeleni isigqibo esizokwenziwa yile commission sijongelwe phansi. Ngakho ke uzokwenza isigqibo ngale ntetho eyenziwe ngumhlekazi Mpofu emva kokuba umhlekazi Mpofu ewaveza amagama aba bantu nendlela abaye banyanzela ngazo kokubanze lento, ngoba kuyacaca okokuba umhlekazi uSiminya akafuna ukuyamikela kuye njengegqetho kuba aba bantu nyane unobungqina bokuba babethwa baze bayiswa kogqirha. Uthemva koko uzabe bese eyijonga ke umhlekazi enze isigqibo, ngoba xa engathatha nje into enjengaleyo ayuba ayinawuba nasidladla. Enkosi.
Mr. Butlander, is there anything you wish to say at this stage, or would you wish to keep your powder dry and use it if necessary after the information Mr. Mpofu has undertaken to give us is available and Mr. Semenya has had a chance to deal with it?
Uyabuza umhlekazi uBadlendo kokuba ufuna ukusebenzisa into angeke ngoku noma ufuna ukuthi ayibeke azikhelele emva kokuba umhlekazi uMpofu eseqibile.
Chair, if there will be an opportunity to address you at that stage, I'm happy to wait until that stage.
I will give you that opportunity. Before you say something, can I just say something? I take it it's implicit that the statements that the police may wish to rely on will not be proffered until such time as this matter is disposed of.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Maybe, Chairperson, what I can say, which may or may not be of assistance, is that some of the people, at least, I'm not sure of the number now, have about 6, I'm told, but I don't want to be held to that number.
You did tell me it was 6. You said
Yeah,
you
no.
4 of them. There's one you actually told 5 of them.
Now, I'm making a different point.
A different point, sorry.
Yeah. Some of those 6, Chairperson, some or all, as I say, I just didn't want to commit because I'm not sure of the number. Some or all of them have, in any event, laid charges or complaints with IPID. And this also is something that I think I indicated last year regarding their alleged torture. And allow...
That solved the problem. If you can get the dockets from IPID, then that may save you quite a lot of other
yes,
work.
Yes. No, that's what I'm saying, Chairperson. And I don't want to discourage this break in the proceedings, but just to say this, Chairperson, there's only one method to test the admissibility of a statement, and it's called a trial within a trial. We don't have that facility in these proceedings, and so whatever we do will have to be a compromise or some kind of improvisation.
I
because
don't know, you say, sorry to interrupt you, I'm not sure. You say we haven't got that facility. We have the power to make rules for our procedure. And if it was necessary, we'd do that. The other point you raise, of course, is that the inconvenience of embarking upon on a series of 6 trials within a trial may outweigh any advantage that may arise from producing the statements at the end, if at the end of such an inquiry or series of inquiries, there was a finding in favour of the police. But that's the other point you make.
Yes, thank you.
I haven't overlooked.
Enye into evezwa ngumhlekazi uMpofu ngoko kokuba abanye noma bonke ababantu abasithandathu athethe ngabo baye benza istatement bavula amatyala kwi-independent police investigation direct ngokubethwa kwabo okungaba kubungqina apha okokuba ababantu nyani bonzakaliswa phambi kokuba baveze ezi zintetho kuthiwa baziveza apha. Ngoku ke xa kuzawulandela umthetho osetshenziswa kuyawuthatha elide ixesha ukuba babuzwe imibuzo ababantu kufumana uba le nto bayithethayo iyinyanza kanti ke sibetha lixesha.
Chair, I must say to Mr. Mpofu that I don't doubt his integrity. It is not that he was not told about these tortures, but torture coercions are questions of fact that must come from those who allege it and the circumstances around which they contend or allege that torture happened. So it is that second category to which I was making reference.
I didn't understand you to be questioning Mr. Mpofu's integrity at all. But anyway, he's very fairly conceded to give you the information. It may be that it comes from the IPA dockets if we can get them. So, and if that's so, if we can get them sooner rather than later, we can deal with this matter quite soon.
But secondly, Chair, secondly, we will answer that when we have the information. But secondly, the prejudice to the Commission can only arise if it makes its conclusions based on that type of evidence around which there is concern. But if at the conclusion of the Commission, the Commission says, because we were not...
You mustn't make these submissions so strongly, Mr.
I thought it was deafeningly cogent an argument to make. No, Chair. If the Commission came to the conclusion that because the testing of the truthfulness or otherwise of this allegation is a facility we did not have, it is for that reason the weight we attach to these documents is more or less not there unless it is independently corroborated by independent evidence. What could be the prejudice to the Commission if that happens? But it is only at that time that may raise itself as a problem.
ube sho umhlekazi uSimenya okokuba sinakuyiveza nje lento njengentetho
Yes, Chairperson. My final attempt.
siveze ubungqina
Chairperson, I think
obuhambelana
there's a fundamental misunderstanding. Sorry.
Mr. Mhlanga was with
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
sorry, just very briefly. Ube sithi
this
umhlekazi-
commission on this aspect, it's the interpreter who has the last word and not council.
Thank you, Chair.
ube chaza umhlekazi uSimenya okokuba lento izawuvela phaa ekugqibeleni xa ivezile lento kuzaveza ubungqina obonakalayo okokuba nangenyani yenzeka le nto aveze ubungqina obuhambelana naloo ntetho evezwa ngumhlekazi uSimenya.
Yeah, Chairperson, I just want to say one thing, just so that we don't misunderstand each other. What we are talking about here, Chairperson, are, and as I use that word very advisedly in my address, are claims of impropriety of whatever type, whether it's a torture or the absence of legal representative. Now, those claims are there, and I understand Mr. Simenya to accept that those claims were made, at least to me. Now, as to the veracity of the claims themselves, that's irrelevant to what to the objection I'm raising now, because the veracity or otherwise of those claims can only be determined by a trial within a trial. Let's assume that some of them are wild claims and some are true. So what? The whole point is that is whether the commission is prepared against relevance which is either non-existent or tenuous to accept statements in respect of which claims of impropriety have been made. There's no other remedy. I can come to Mr. Simenya with 100 affidavits of people who claim that they were tortured. How is he going to determine the veracity thereof except through the time-tested method of a trial within a trial? There's no other acceptable means of doing that. So it is either the commission accepts that these statements firstly are not relevant at all, in which case all this becomes academic, or if the commission says, well, there might be of some relevance, does all this, including these affidavits and so on, justify or rather not justify the exercise of the discretion for their exclusion? That's my submission. So it's not so much I'm going to show somebody's car and that's irrelevant at this stage because it's not going to assist anybody.
I understood your submission to be as you summarize it, but I did say, speaking for myself, I would prefer to see affidavits by the people concerned. So these are not just allegations made, but these are supported by, in the way factual assertions in courts and other bodies normally are supported. But anyway, I think we understand what you said, and I think Mr. Simenya understands what you said, and we understand what he submitted. You understand it as well. So we can now get on with the main business of the morning, and that's hearing Mr. X's evidence.
uthi umhlekazi sawuyeka apho sivene uvile nomhlekazi uSimenya njengoba bebeka umhlekazi uMpofu kokuba kuzafanele kuvele ubungqina obo bestatement ezezingavelana kwi-IPID okuba aba bantu babethwa banyanzelwa okokuba benze ezi zintetho afuna ukuzisebenzisa umhlekazi uSimenya.
Mr. Matabedi, I understand you're going to call Mr. X. I did indicate that we wanted people who have not yet indicated documents on which they will rely in cross-examination to do so at the start of business on Monday. And that may make it necessary for you, after the evidence of the experts has been interposed, to reopen, as it were, the examination in chief of the witness before cross-examination, in which case you will refer to the documents to which your attention will have been drawn by the parties. And you will also then, I would think, be able to deal with these documents to which Mr. Mpofu has been objecting, because that would be the appropriate time to deal with, because I would hope by then be able to give the ruling based on the extra information we're going to get. So I take it you can proceed for the moment without referring to those documents, but it's only 6 people, apparently. Perhaps we can ask Mr. Porf at least to provide you with their name during the lunch hour, so you at least bear that in mind when you're leading the evidence. But of course your right to proffer those statements at a later stage will of course be reserved, subject to the decision that I will have to make. But are you ready to call Mr. X?
Thanks, Chair.
Umhlekazi Mathibedi
For a
uxelela
start,
ukuba
Chair,
uzangambiza
start with matters
ngokumhlekazi
of
X.
housekeeping and name the
Yes, all right.
statements of Mr.
housekeeping.
X.
Kodwa ke
That
kukho
is bundle B.
izinto ezithize afuna ukuba zilungise phambi kokuba aqale ngobungqina bukamhlekazi X.
In the index of bundle B, documents to be used in evidence in chief of Mr. X.
That's correct.
And the first 2 are the one is a manuscript statement of Mr. X dated the 7th of February 2013, and then number 2 is a typed version of that document, and then you have other statements by Mr. X which are described as new exhibits. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Goes up to item 10, Chair.
We give a document, an exhibit, a number, where we have a manuscript version as well as a typed version. So quadruple A point 1, quadruple A 1.1 will be the manuscript statement dated 7 February 2013. Quadruple A 1.2 will be the typed version thereof.
Statements sakhe asibhala ngesandla esesibini seso esibhale ngesandla apho sibhale khona
Quadruple A 2.1 will be the statement which is marked A44 in the docket of case 107/08/2012. Is that right?
kubekho esesibini esivela phaya kwidokhethi.
So is A45 a typed version? I haven't looked at it. Or is it a separate? All right, so it'll just be triple A, it'll be rather quadruple A2. That's the statement of X marked A4 in docket CAS 107/08/2012. And then quadruple A3 will be the statement of X in same docket.
Ezikuthethwa ngazo apha sikwesesine ngoku statement ezenziwe yile ndoda umhlekazi X kwidokhethi ezohlukile.
And then triple A, sorry, always called triple. Quadruple A4 will be the statement of X marked A17 in docket CAS 109/08/12.
Uphinde kubekho esinye esimfakwa inamba nayo esenziwe ngoye umhlekazi lo unantsika kwelinye idokhethi.
And the one, and I take it the one marked A18 is also another statement. It's not a typed one, is that right?
That's correct, Chair.
Silandelayo A18 asingeni kwelo dokhethi siza kwelinye elilandelayo sesakhe njalo naso.
Then quadruple A6 will be a statement marked A34.
U-A34 kuzoba statement esesithandathu
111.
sikanantsika esenziwe kwidokethi elinye elilandelayo.
2012. And quadruple A7. In the same docket, marked A35.
Kulo elo dokethi uphinde wenza esinye statement sesixhenxe umhlekazi lo unantsika.
Item 10, we only have a typed statement.
All right. Thank you. So quadruple
Esilandelayo
A8
emva
will be typed
koko
statements.
kwesesibhozo sesibhale ngomtshini.
Do we know the date of that statement?
Unfortunately, Chair, it does not have
All right, I'll
a
describe
date.
this typed
Both-
statement.
Yes.
Number 10 in bundle B.
Kwibhandle yesibili
Thanks,
kukho
Chair.
istatement seshumi esingenayo idate esenziwa umhlekazi u-X.
Chairperson, if I may, Chairperson, I know it's not in my place, but maybe it will save us time and some ink. Would it be harmful if we just call it AB1? This quadruple A is just going to...
Done already, but perhaps we must bear your suggestion in mind for future exhibits.
No, Ms. Pillay agrees with me.
Well, perhaps she will also agree with my proposal that we bear your point in mind for future exhibits. I've already gone through the exercise.
Sezibhaliwe ke
It is
zonke
a good
njengoba
suggestion.
sisho.
It's a pity you didn't mention it
Zibhalwe
earlier, but
ukuba
I
AAAA1
thank you for it.
kufika
Belated though the gift
10.
is.
Thanks, Chair. I beg leave to call Mr. X.
Mhlekazi uMathibedi uthi ndicela ngoko ukuba ndibize ubungqina buka mhlekazi u-X.
We won't mention his name.
Asinawuveza ibizo lakhe.
It's available on the documents which are before us. Mr.
Likhona
Interpreter,
apha kuthi.
would you please, I understand he speaks Xhosa, would you please swear him in?
Mhlekazi uyafunga ukuba yonke intetho oza kuyinikeza kule commission iza kuba inyaniso yonke inyaniso ephelele. Yes, I want to take the oath. Xa kunjalo ke isho lamazwi alandelayo ithi Thixo ndincede. Yes, son, so help me God.
I'm afraid I was distracted. Did you tell me, Must tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I did exactly that.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Matabedi.
Thanks. Sir, you confirm that you took part in the strike that occurred during August 2012?
Uyayinqina lento kwawukhona phaya kumzabalazo kwistrike esenzeka.
Chair, I beg
The
your
date
pardon.
again?
Sorry. I didn't hear the witness respond to the request that he tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Well, Mr.
And I
Mustanga
do not
said he
believe that he's
interpreted-
properly sworn in. He was told to do that, but he didn't say, I accept and agree that that would be
You
the
don't
case.
have to do that. All you have to do is when you're told, you're asked to swear you give the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. You then asked to raise your right hand and say, I swear so help me God. And I understood from the interpreter that that's what happened.
No, Chair, that's precisely my objection. He did not do that.
We're having a conflict of fact here. Mr. Mustanga, how do you respond to that point?
Chairperson, he said it in Xhosa. I think the people who understand Xhosa understand it. Yes, it is so. And then I said, if it be so, then repeat the following words. So help me God. And he did in Xhosa. Thixo ndincede.
Yeah.
That is the
Chairperson, maybe being Xhosa speaking, I can say that the objection, that answer doesn't assist us. The raising of the right hand in Xhosa or in English is the same thing, Chairperson. He didn't raise his hand.
Let's solve the problem by asking him to swear again. If I
Mhlekazi,
don't have any fancy
ingxaki
points,
apha.
good or bad, taken later, would you ask him please to repeat the oath he took, to raise his right hand and
Mandithi,
say... and ask
kuthiwa
him-
azange ndixelele ukuba uphakamise isandla esi
So
sokutya
repeat that he swears to tell the truth, the whole
uphinde
truth, nothing
emva
but the
kwami
truth.
la mazwi bakubone xa usitsho ukuba Thixo ndincede.
Would he please raise his right hand and say, I swear.
Phakamisa isandla sakho
Let's see
sokutya.
his right hand on the screen.
Sisibone pha escreenini. The hand is raised, Mr.
And
Chairperson.
let him say, I swear, so help me God.
Phinda ke la mazwi uthi Thixo ndincede. So help me God.
So you're content? Yes, Mr. Mosbedi, after that
Thanks, Chair.
possibly overcautious action, let's proceed.
Thanks. Sir, you confirm that you took part in the strike that occurred during August 2012?
Wawukhona kwi-strike esesenzeka ngo-August phaya kunyaka ka-2012 mhleke. Yes, sir.
Were you aware that the strike was unprotected?
Ubunalo ulwazi lokokuba esi strike asekhuselwanga asikho emthethweni. Yes, sir.
Were you not worried that you will lose your job by taking part in the unprotected strike?
Ubungoyiki okokuba ningagxotha emsebenzini ngokuba uzibandakanye nesi strike. Andiva? I wasn't scared.
Now, sir, you are aware that as a result of the unlawful activities of some of the strikers, that between the 10th and the 14th of August, Mr. Interpreter,
Sentence isn't complete to be interpreted in class.
I thought maybe it's better if I break it into portions, two portions.
You could repeat it again, sir.
You are aware that as a result of the unlawful activities of some of the strikers that occurred, that between the 10th and the 14th of August 2012,
Unolwazi okokuba kukho into eyenzeka kwabanye abasebenzi phakathi kwalezo mini mhla ka-10 kude kube mhla ka-14.
10 people lost their lives.
Okokuba kwasweleka abantu abalishumi apho. Yes, sir.
There was destruction of property.
Konzakaliswa konakaliswa nempahla yabantu apho. Yes.
There was intimidation.
Ugrogriswa nabantu.
Chair, I don't want to be difficult, but is this really a proper way to ask a question of a witness? It's conclusory as to what happened, rather than evidence of what happened. And it's what is more put in the most leading way imaginable.
It does sound as if you're leading, Mr. Mosbedi.
Chairperson,
I would prefer if you reformulated the question.
Umhlekazi uBatlenda uthi angamfaka amazwi emlonyeni makamyeke okokuba thethe yena ngokwakhe.
Thanks.
Sorry, Mr. Butlander, most of the points he dealt with are common cause on them. So I take it it's a short way of trying to get into the meat of the matter.
Well, Chair, there's a dispute as to what the cause was of the loss of some of the lives on the 13th of August, for example.
Uthi umhlekazi mhlawumbe ubethetha ngolu hlobo umhlekazi
We all
umathibeli
may have
ngoba
our views as to who was
zezinto asivezayo
responsible.
zizinto ezingakhanyelwa. Uthi umhlekazi uBatlenda hayi kukho uphikisana apho kuba yaba yintoni imbangela yezi zehlakalo.
We may all have our views as to who was responsible for what, but the assertion seems to me a very blank one, which a witness might wish to make, but which oughtn't to be put to him.
Ngoba kukho abanye
that
abathi
the
zenziwa
strikers were
ngaba.
responsible for all of the deaths that took place on the 13th of August is a matter on which opinions may
Abanye bathi zenzeka ngaba ngoba kukho lento yenzeka mhla ka-13 apho khona uphikisana khona.
Because there is an
Ukuba ubani
issue
owenza ntoni.
which we will have to decide at the end and make findings on as to whether the deaths of the police on the 13th were caused by unlawful acts by the strikers or are the strikers acting in self-defense or putative self-defense because they thought that they were themselves under attack. It's a matter which we haven't yet made a finding and we'll only do so at the end.
And if I may say so, Chair, the deaths of the strikers on that day, whether that was caused by their unlawful conduct or caused by other people's unlawful
Yes,
conduct.
that point is also... Anyway, you said you'll reformulate the question. Let's go.
Uzakubuza ngenye indlela umhlekazi umathibeli lo mbuzo.
Sir, were you involved in some of the killings that took place between the 10th and the 14th of August 2012?
Wena ngokwakho ke mhlekazi wawukhona ubandakanya kubulawa kwabantu abathize phakathi kwale mini lezi zomhla ka-10 kude kube ngale mini ye-14 wena ngokwakho? Yes, sir.
Were you involved in some of the destruction of the property that occurred between the 10th and the 14th of August?
Xa konakaliswa konzakalo koniwa impahla yabantu phaya phakathi kwale mini mhla ka-10 nomhla ka-14 wawungomnye walabo bantu babenza ezo zenzo? Yes, sir.
Were you involved in some of the intimidation that occurred between the 10th and the 12th of August 2012?
Kwakukho ugrogriso labantu ke phakathi kwemhla ka-10 kude kube ngomhla ka-12 wawungomnye labo bantu babegrogrisa abanye? Yes, sir.
Are you responsible for some of the injuries that people sustained between the 10th and the 14th of August?
Ukho abantu bonzakala phaya phakathi komhla ka-10 nomhla ka-14 ungomnye wena waba bantu babonzakalisa aba bantu? Yes, sir.
I want to urge people who are sitting in the chamber to
Uthi
behave
umgcini
themselves.
sihlalo uthanda ukwenza esi sicelo silandelayo kwabantu abahleli apha
This is
kule
not a
chamber.
laughing matter. This is not a matter for people to make comments about or exclamations about.
Masingahleki noma senze
They're very
okunye.
serious matters.
Masimamele into eserious gqitha lesithetha ngayo.
I'm sure they have their feelings about them, but they must please keep them to themselves.
Masike siyeke kokuba siziva kanjani imivo yethu sithule nje sithi tu
I
simamele.
don't want to have to clear the chamber or ask people to leave because they're making a noise. They're entitled to be here. They're entitled to hear.
Uthi umgcini sihlalo
Yes,
ninegunya
see the witness on
pheleleyo
screen.
lokuba nibe khona apha nilibone nelinqina akafuni kude kufike apho azonyanzeleka okokuba kukho abantu abathize
I
abakhutshwayo.
hope it won't be necessary to say to deal with
Andiboni
this
ukuba
matter.
kuzawuba nesidingo sokuba ndiyiphinde le ntetho.
Thanks. Sir, you are aware that losing a loved one is not something that people take lightly. It has got a serious impact on the affected families.
Ndiyethemba okokuba unalo ulwazi lokuba ukulahlekelwa umuntu osisithandani sakho into evisa ubuhlungu gqitha iyahlala apha enhliziyweni kuwe. Kunjalo? It is so.
And you are also aware of the consequences of people losing their valuable properties.
Uyazi ke nolahleko lwempahla yabantu kokuba imbangela yaloko yintoni? Yes, sir.
And you are also aware of the consequences of people having sustained injuries.
Nabantu abonzakele nje uyazi okokuba baziva kanjani. Kunjalo? It is so.
Sir, you agree that it is very important that the affected families should know how and why their loved ones lost their lives.
Ngoku ke siyethemba okokuba uyafuna ukuba aba balahlekelwa zizilamani nezihlobo ezenzakala nezasweleka kwakutheni kude kwenzeke loo nto. Yes, I do.
You are aware, sir, that you are expected to honestly, openly, and truthfully testify before this commission and to answer relevant questions. Put to
Unalo
you.
ulwazi lokokuba apha umele okokuba uthethe inyani uvule inhliziyo yakho uthethe yonke into oyaziyo ngalento. It is so.
Sir, during August 2012, did you attend any meeting where the plight of the RDOs was discussed?
Kwinyanga ka-August kulo nyaka ka-2012 kukho i-meeting intlanganiso wawoyiye kuyo apho kuye kuyethethwa khona ngezinto eziphathelene ne-rock drill operators, i-RDOs. Yes, there was.
Where did the meeting take place?
Yabanjwa phi lo meeting? The first one was held in the region of Moi as RDOs. There were 700 of us.
When was the meeting held?
Kwakunini xa kubanjwa lo meeting? It was during the day.
Can you remember the day, the date? when the meeting was held?
Imini kwakuyimhla
Are we 5 or 6?
5 number 6. It was the 5th or the 6th. That is the date.
Which month was that?
Inyanga kwakungeyiphi?
August.
It was during August.
What was discussed at that meeting?
Sakhumbula intetho eyavela apho kulo nhlanganiso.
Kwakuthethwa ngemali efuneke sihambe sizi-IDO sihambe sixelelana kwindawo esisebenza kuzo sifuna sidibana nge-9 ama-RTO.
It was about money that we as RDOs had to receive and that we were going to meet again on the 9th.
Sizofuna imali engange-12,500.
The money we were going to demand was an amount of 12,500.
The money was to be demanded from whom?
Naniyo ifuna kubani lo mali?
Sasodibana sasigqiba ngoba sizodibana eVenerco nge-9.
We agreed that we would meet on the 9th of the month, which was a holiday.
You haven't answered the question. You were asked from whom was the money going to be demanded?
Mbuzo ukuba naniyo ijengiso kubani eso si
12,500.
Ubani nayujongana nemixelo banifuna le 12,500.
Sasoyifuna kumqeshi e-home office.
From the employer at the time office.
The demand related to what, sir? Of the 12,500?
Kwakuyimali yantoni ke le 12,500?
Kwakuyimali uba sifuna uba sikhushulelwe imirholo uba sisebenza kanzima.
It was money where our salaries had to be erased because of the hard work that we were doing.
How was the meeting conducted? Was there any person who chaired the meeting?
Kwakukho owayengumhlali ngaphambili kule meeting inganeni yayibanjwe kanjani?
Wayekhona uchairperson we-meeting.
There was a chairperson of the meeting, yes.
Who was the chairperson of the meeting?
Kwakungubani umhlali ngaphambili wenhlanganiso?
Kwakungubhele.
It was Ben. Bele.
Does one spell Bele, Mr. Interpreter?
Bele spelled B-E-L-E, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, in Xhosa B-H-E-L-E.
Yes, I thought there was an H missing.
Thanks.
How did it come about that Bele should be the chairperson of the meeting?
Zakanjani kokokuba i-meeting lena izibanjwe kube ngubhele ongumhlali ngaphambili?
Wayekhethwe sithi.
He was elected by us.
During that meeting, was any view expressed about the involvement or non-involvement of unions in pursuing the grievance of the strikers?
Ngoku ke kwesisikhalazana sina nani naso esiphathelene nemivuzo le. Kukho into eyavela apho okuthathwa ngayo ngokubandakanya kwe-unions apho.
Sathi imibutho asiyifuni ngoba ayizidlulisi izikhalazo zethu.
We said we did not want the unions because they did not forward our grievances.
Which union were the strikers referring to?
Babethetha ngeyiphi union ke abaqhankqalazi? The NAM.
How did the meeting end, sir?
Yaphela kanjani ke lo meeting yagqitshwa ngokuthini?
Yaphela ngokuthi sizosihamba sixelelana kwindawo sisebenza kuzo okokuba nge-9 ngelanga le-holiday sizodibana egrandini eVenerco.
The ending was that we would discuss this amongst ourselves as workers at the different working place, and that a meeting would be held at Vonorkop on the 9th, which would have been a holiday.
Now, what was going to be discussed on the 9th at Vonorkop?
Phaya eVonorkop ke nge-9 kwakuyawuthethwa ntoni?
Sasiyothetha ngoba siyothetha nge-12,500.
We're going to talk about the 12,500.
On the 8th of August, did you go to work, sir?
Ngomhla ka-8 ku-August waya empangelweni?
Yes.
Yes.
Did anything happen whilst you were on duty?
Kukho into eyenzeka ke xa uphaya emsebenzini?
Yes.
Yes.
Will you proceed and tell us what happened, sir?
Khawutsho ke sixelele kwenzeka ntoni?
ndathi xa ndikloka echaftini ndafumana iparade xa ndiyibuza uba yeyantoni kwathiwa mandiuve eholweni u-HR.
When I went on to clock for duty, there was a parade there, and when I asked what it was about, I was told to go to the parade at the HR.
Sorry, what do you mean by HR, sir?
Xa uthi HR yeyiphi indawo le?
Ndathi xa ndikloka echaftini yam ndathola iparade endifuna kuthiwa mandiye kuBoise.
When I clocked at my shaft, there was a parade and I was told to go to Boise.
Who is Boise, sir?
Ubani uBoise lo?
U-HR wase Eastward.
He's the HR at Eastward. Andiva kahle?
U-HR osechaftini number 1.
He's the HR at the shaft, Eastern Platz.
Where is Mr. Boise employed?
Usebenza phi lo uBoise?
Usebenza ema-ofisi.
He works in the offices above above the shafts.
The offices of which company, sir?
Ama office AEP in company. Loanmin.
Did you oblige to the request?
Wayenza ke njengoba wawucela ukuba uye kuye.
Yeah, la ndakloka ndathola iparade bese sisiya eholweni.
Yes, after
uBoise wasicacisela uba kunemali efakelwa ama-RTO.
After clocking, I proceeded to him. Boise told us that there was money that had been given, that has been added for RDOs.
Where did you find Boise?
Wamfumana ndawophi uBoise?
Ndamfumana eholweni.
I found him in the hall. At the shaft.
Was he alone in the hall?
Ube yedwa apho eholweni.
Yeah, wayedwa uBoise eholweni wafika thina sizi-RDO nama-RTA.
Boise was alone in the hall until we, the RDOs, arrived and the RDAs.
Roughly how many RDAs and RDOs went to the hall?
Ngabantu abangaki ke xa uthekelela nje i-RDOs konke nama-RDAs aya phaya eholweni. We were many. We were all paraded according to the jobs that I have referred to.
Will you proceed, sir, and tell us what happened?
uBoise wasicacisela uba kunemali efakelwa i-RTO nama-RTA.
Boise told us that there's money added for RDOs and also for RDAs.
I-RDO ebhola i-1 ingenamtshakazi.
An RDO that works alone without an assistant would receive awufumana
ebhola i-1 izofumana i-750.
That he would receive an amount of 750.
I-RDO ebhola inomtshakazi.
An RDO that does work with with an assistant
izofumana i-500.
would receive 500.
Uspane umtshakazi afumane i-250.
The RDA would receive 250.
Did the RDOs and RDAs accept the proposal put forward by Boise?
RDOs ezine RDAs bayamkela lento yayivezwa nguBoise.
Zange siyamkele.
We did not accept it.
Were officials of any union present during that discussion?
Kwakukho inkokheli ze-union ezazikhoyo ngapho ngelo xesha.
Sambuza uba Boise jonga uqhela usixelela ireport uhamba nabanye baphi abanye.
We asked Boise, whenever you give us a report, you usually in the company of others, where are they?
Others were you, to whom were you referring to, sir?
Awuthetha ngaba abanye wawuthetha ngobani?
Aba echaftini xa sixelelwa into uBoyzi yayiba khona irep union.
Whenever the HR would give us a report, there would be a union representative.
Sir, you have already testified before then. Did any of the union officials' representatives appear at the meeting?
Kwakukho owe union owavela apho kuloo ntlangano.
Wathi uBoyzi uyeza.
Boise said he was coming, and then in fact he eventually arrived.
Who arrived, sir?
Ubani lo wafika mvo?
Sambuza ba wayewafika uChipa.
Chipa is his name.
Who is Chipa, sir?
Ubani lo Chipa?
uChipa
He's a shaft steward. He's a shaft steward belonging to a union.
Which union did he belong to?
Uweyiphi union umfolo? Is with NUM, NUM.
Sir, you have already testified that the RD
What confused us was we had been discussing this thing on the other side, and here all of a sudden we are being told by Boise when we went to the shafts.
Okay. Yeah, we're ready. Okay. Okay. All right.